Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Dork Forest. It is Wednesday, October 6th. I'm taping 2 today, because that's right. I've been out of town, and we're going to do it. DorkForest.com. It's on iTunes. There's a player on JackieCation.com. There's donation buttons on both of those. Feel free. Throw me $20. What are you, made of stone? Huh? Come on. Anyway, you can also buy stuff from the merch page, the shopping page on my website. And my new CD, my currently new CD, It Is Never Going to Be Bread, is on iTunes and Amazon. If you want to see what one of those jokes looks like, go to the cartoon on YouTube. The Animals joke is animated by Greg Franklin. And today, sitting in my living room, being pre-recorded with me, are my two guests. Droege,
That's
right?
all right. That's all right. Droege, yeah.
Drew Droege.
Yeah, sure, Droege.
It's alliterative.
It is alliterative, yeah.
Thank
but I
you.
respond to anything. I get
Really?
Droge.
Hey, you.
Hey, you. I'll take it.
What's going on? I was going to go Droege.
Droge. I get Droge a lot.
A lot of people want to soften that G right up.
They do. They do. Well, they don't. Or what's the other one I get? Druggy. I get a lot. Or Droege.
Did you get Droege as a child?
Mm-hmm. I did.
The hilarity of children, huh?
People are funny.
They are.
Jackie, people are funny.
As is Drew Droege, who I met doing sit and spin storytelling
Right.
over at the Comedy Central stage here in Los Angeles. And you are a horror movie dork, and we're going to talk about it.
Yes.
Or you're really into horror movies.
I'm really into horror. I'm a dork. I'll
right.
take it.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. I use the word dork so much in this show that I'm a little over it. But
Really?
But it's called the
What's
Dork
the name of your
Forest.
show? Right.
Yeah, so I'm doomed. Anyway, and over here to my left is Shelagh Ratner, stand-up comic, voice actress, regular actress, funny human being. Shelagh Ratner, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're in.
Yeah.
Yay.
And Shelagh Ratner, who Army brat, is that right?
No, my father was an English and American lit professor.
Oh,
and
Professor Brat.
We moved every few years to various countries at interesting political times. So was he in the CIA? I don't know. You make the call.
Wow, really?
There we
That's
go,
great
which is
as well.
and
Sometimes
then you
I've
grew
wondered.
up really liking math because it was all in English.
Well, because
no,
when
then I
you're
just
in
made that
when you're
American.
10 years old, yes,
Very offensive. That's very xenophobic.
Thank you.
when
Thank
it
you.
was all in English. Yes, because when we went to these foreign countries, our parents put us in the local schools. They didn't want us in the American schools. They thought that would be silly.
Oh, it'd be a great way to
So-
meet some of the nationals, too.
Yes, exactly. So, yes. So, when you're 10 years old in Prague, Czechoslovakia, and you don't understand one thing that's going on, and then you look up and 2 + 2 is 4, it's a relief because
Right.
that's what it is in any country.
Okay, except for, as we know, Cuba, where things are different.
Things are very different there.
They're so
they
different.
Don't, they don't have math in Cuba.
No.
It's outlawed.
And café con leche, it's always sweet and condensed. And you're like, dude, I just wanted milk.
I just wanted
Yeah.
coffee
Yeah.
with milk.
Yeah, I didn't need the sweet and condensed. So,
I hate Cuba.
but who doesn't love a plantain?
Oh, I know. They're
It's,
so good.
they're so tasty.
Yeah, good. Can't get enough of those.
Okay, so Sheila, let's just jump right into the fact
Yeah,
that now
sure.
I need to know, when you say various countries, what countries? What
Oh,
countries?
okay.
You've been to Prague,
I'll do the math
Czechoslovakia.
for you. Let me put
Do
it
the
that
math,
way.
Yeah.
I was born in Northampton, Massachusetts.
Oh,
My
that's
father
a
was
foreign,
teaching.
foreign place.
That is a very
Weird,
foreign place.
exotic.
A lot of whale belts and things like that, and very jawy women, clenched jaws. After that, we went to Freiburg, Germany, returned to Amherst, went to Frankfurt, returned, a few summers in Italy, Prague for 2
You
years.
summered in Italy?
We see a few summers in Italy. I would never use summer as a verb. I think you know me better than that. I would
You're
never
so
use.
waspy looking. You could summer places, Sheila.
Summer.
But I won't. That's the point. You won't find a J. Crew catalog, and I read it and I deposit it before I
Do you
get in the house.
Do you remember Tweeds? Did you ever see a
Tweeds.
Tweeds catalog?
Yes,
there was a
sure.
lot of people
Oh.
staring off over water.
Oh,
wearing a
yeah, yeah,
sweater.
Yes.
yeah. There's also like Chadwick's. There was like
Right.
a ladies, and it was always ladies on a dock in like a cable knit
Yes.
sweater.
hoping no one foreign arrives in a small boat.
You guys both have that sort of waspy look that looks like you'd never spill food on yourself.
Oh, sure. I'm the messiest human being on
Oh, are
earth.
you?
No, I really am. But I know. I am fascinated with that.
You have a fastidious look about yourself. where you're just
Connecticut.
like, I could eat corn and no one would ever know. Or whatever. That type of thing.
He'd have floss with him.
Oh, sure.
Returned to Northern California, where we had set up shop a couple of years in there. I think I lost that.
The professorial shop.
Went to Porto Alegre, Brazil, where my parents had me tutored in Spanish, even though
the language of
Portuguese. Let's confuse a 13-year-old. Let's do that.
Wow.
But just as we got there, school let out because the seasons are upside down, and my brother thought it was the best place in the world. And they would scream "Fuchiball," and we'd all just leave the class and play soccer. It was a lovely place to go to school.
Oh, nice.
Then Northern California, and then England.
England,
And then
Manchester, England, England?
London, England.
London, England.
Islington, to be exact. I don't remember the street
you're
number.
Islington? Yeah, I've been there. It's awesome. It's beautiful.
It's
yeah.
very a lot of those houses smushed together, and a lot of women staring off across the water.
How are their jaws? How are they
Clenched as
Islington?
well.
They're I figured
Yes,
as much.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then they set me free.
They
And
set
that
you
was
free.
it. Well, by then I
No
was
time
18.
in Ireland or Wales or Scotland, because that's what I would have pegged you for one of those.
Well, you're Irish of ancestry, are you not, Sheila?
My father
No.
is a Jew. His name
Is
is
he a
Ratner.
Jew?
And my mother is...
But the Jews get to live everywhere because of the diaspora?
Diaspora?
Oh.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Armenians were just
I was going to say the
genocided.
Armenians. I think when I hear diaspora, I think of Armenians.
Oh, really? It was a Jewish word, actually.
Oh,
It was
really?
a word regarding the Jews, actually.
Okay.
And created, I think, when England kicked all the Jews out of England.
Oh.
Yeah, remember that?
I
always
wasn't
thought it
there.
Isn't it like sort of a general word for like the
now
cultural?
It is. But
Oh,
I think
okay.
it started with...
with a specific...
Because nobody wants to kick out people more than people want to kick out the Jews, weirdly enough.
I know.
They're just like,
It's
you're
true.
really good at things. We're going to have to fix our bell
Yes.
curve. Get out.
I was just at Aroma Cafe, and they asked 3 Jews to leave. It happens all the time.
the valley.
Constantly.
Welcome to the valley, ladies and gentlemen. So, okay, so
Yeah.
you never...
And
there
then,
was no
but there is
Southeast
Irish
Asia.
Catholic on my mother's side, is what I
Okay.
was going to say. There is Irish
Oh.
and Italian on my mother's side.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so... Because what I was hoping, no Southeast Asia, no China, no Vietnam in 1975 being airlifted out. Because, I mean, the thing is that's not the CIA. You would put you somewhere interesting. Why do you got to go to Germany?
Yeah.
Aren't they with us? If not, they're not against us.
And it's just a
Oh,
theory.
no, not in 1975.
It's
yeah.
just a theory,
All right.
So we could have been in Southeast Asia, and I could have been given a mock home that they were telling me was in
wow,
Germany. I
that's
could have
awesome.
lived in
That'd
a
be
bubble
cool.
for 2 years. I really
You just got Shyamalan like in your whole like in that-
exactly.
Yeah, he just took over your life.
My Snoopy lunchbox may have been bugged. I have no
a
idea.
recording device, because they'll let children into things. I've read about it in different books. Where
They'll let
tell-
children into things.
They'll talk to children in these books. They're always talking about how the Nazis would let kids take pictures, and then they were all like British spies.
Wow.
The kids?
Yeah, the kids were.
Wow.
Their parents were pretending to be Nazis, and then they would send them off to Ireland. And
Wow.
then the pictures would eventually. Granted, we're talking. Do you know what book that is? That's I forget his first name, McDonald, and he wrote the Fletch series.
Oh, Jeffrey
Oh.
McDonald, right?
It starts with a G.
I
It
think
might be
Jeffrey
Jeffrey.
McDonald killed his wife and 3 children.
Oh, you're
It was
right.
a Green
You're right.
Beret.
You're totally
Yes.
right. The
Fatal
Green Beret.
Vision.
Yeah, Fatal
Yes.
Vision. You're
Yes.
absolutely right.
That
Jeffrey
was a
McDonald.
good book.
Who wrote Fletch?
I don't know. But
Fatal
you know,
Vision's a great book and
It's-
a great movie too. It's
I'll put
really
it in the
what-
notes, and
it's great.
you know, if the chat room were still with us, we'd be able to find that
Oh,
out
I know.
immediately. Or if I had my laptop out, but all
Oh,
I
I
have is a
know.
piece of paper and a pen.
I like that.
It's,
It's like olden times. It's like Little House on the Prairie podcast.
It's.
I like that too.
Do you like it?
I like when I like actually making some at least going like if you don't know something going and looking it up. I don't know
Because it
like
used
Yeah.
to be.
it
Yeah.
used to be like you had to know things. Now it's like let me check my phone. I can and
And I'll
Yeah.
tell you
on
in-
one hand I think that's great because you get information, but you don't retain any of it because you don't have to.
Right.
You,
Oh,
know,
right.
you know.
Do you guys ever
An
do
old
this?
man
Do you
about that.
remember when you wouldn't know something, and so you'd call your parents?
Uh huh.
And then you could just go, hey, I forgot how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon. And it would be an excuse, sort of, to call your parents. 'Cause
Sure.
now, the
Sure.
only reason I call my parents is to actually go, so how you doing? I mean, it used to be, it was
Well,
like
I
just
actually
say,
I
yeah.
was growing a tomato plant this year for this crazy mock reality show that I was on. And my family, I've never grown anything before, like that before. And my family, it was a great bonding experience with my family in South Carolina because I was calling my mom and my grandparents, once a week, and saying, okay, so it's kind of doing this. What can I do? And they were more excited about that than any acting job I've ever had. They were like, oh, you're growing a tomato.
You're growing a tomato. But you know what else? It's also exciting because you talk to them every week. Would you regularly talk to them every week?
Well, I would talk to my parents every week, but not my grandparents. Probably not. No,
But not about a project.
Or about a project.
Not something
Exactly.
exciting
It was something
that was
that was sort of
growing.
about.
You got to talk directly into the mic. Sorry about that.
Sure,
That's
no
all
problem.
right.
It was. You're right though. It was about something that
Because I can hear.
I was working on, as opposed to just a general, I'm fine, this is what I'm
Right.
doing.
Yes.
It's hard to explain this weird life that we have out here as performers, actors, whatever.
Right. Nobody gets it.
Nobody gets it, and I don't, and they get it enough, but it's like I don't expect them
No,
to.
they get the
No.
idea because everybody gets cable.
Right.
But, and
Right,
there's reality.
right.
What reality show were you on?
It was an online show called Gardening Wars, and it was on channel101.com. It was
Excellent.
They do 5-minute TV show parodies on the website.
Okay.
And
But you had to actually grow a tomato.
But it was a real show, and that we actually grew tomatoes. It was 5 guys in a race to grow tomatoes, and I won.
Did you win?
Yes, I won.
What did you win?
I won $100.
Excellent. You
And-
should have
and-
won
and-
$101.
Oh, yeah. Oh, because it's 101, Channel 101.
Yeah, what are they thinking?
What were they thinking?
They-
I'm
they
going
dropped
to ask
the ball
them.
right for an extra buck.
They
Sure did.
Come on.
Cheap.
And then hand it to you, and then they should say something like, get yourself something pretty.
Uh-uh.
'Cause that's what it is. That's great. So have you ever been on a reality show, Sheila?
Have I? No.
No.
I've,
Which one would you be on?
well,
If you could would you be on that new art one?
I canceled a couple of auditions for Last Comic Standing
Oh, did you?
because in the 11th hour, someone said, "What
are you
would
thinking?
what would happen to you that would really cause you duress?" And I said I could bomb and my lazy eye could go in, and they said both those things could happen on camera. I would suggest not auditioning for this.
Do you have a
It
separate eye
benefited
that
you.
put? Did you? Right, because then I didn't have to go head to head with Sheila Ratner.
Uh-huh.
Boom.
Boom.
I was frightened of the reality of it all, or let me put it this way, the non-reality of it
The
all.
Did you do Last Comic Standing? Did you do
Twice.
that? Okay.
2.5 times, really, because I did it one year where they told me the semifinal dates, and I would have made the semifinals, except for that it was while I was scheduled. We had already bought tickets for my honeymoon in Italy. And I was like, as much as I want not to do a reality show called Last Comic Standing,
Sure.
I'm not going to come home 5 days early from Italy.
No way.
Not
Absolutely
a chance
not.
in hell.
No way.
I'm going to be drinking lattes and watching kids play soccer.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
or take pictures for their CIA parents.
Exactly, maybe.
Those kids are up to.
I could act like a tiny child and maybe find out what the Italians are hiding from us. What do you think the Italians? I don't think
I
anybody's...
don't know. I don't trust those people. You
Dude,
can't trust anybody.
I think they don't trust us. I think they're the ones that
Really?
are more like, let's bring our children over to the United States and snap some shots of Area 51.
I don't trust us either. I mean, I don't blame
It's,
them.
as much as I like us, I don't trust us at all. It's I went and saw Penn and Teller last night, and they pretended to burn a flag on stage.
An American flag?
Yep. Yes, an American flag.
Wow.
I wonder. Yeah. It could have been any flag. It was the U.S. flag, and there was some tightening of buttocks, and they had to go into a strongly worded thing about how they had the right to do it, and they had the right
Wow.
to pretend to do it, and they had
That's
the.
so crazy. I don't understand. I guess is
I mean,
that
you get it, right?
I get it.
I don't support it.
I don't support it either. I'm not
Right.
about like I don't think that. I mean, I'm not into like sort of that sort of symbolic acts of like we're gonna burn this or we're gonna throw blood on a fur coat or whatever. I don't believe in doing that kind of stuff. But I just feel like the fact that would really truly bother somebody is interesting to me because it's just I don't know.
Right. I mean, I get that it's a symbol. I am sympathetic. I am not supportive. I am sympathetic that you feel like the flag is a symbol of the United States of America, but I am not. I am supportive that we have a constitutional right to be an asshole.
I think
Absolutely
I think it's
right.
thinking too much in absolutes. I think it's people who wear
Yes.
a flag on their lapel and say, I'm more of an American than you because you're not wearing an American flag in your lapel.
Right.
Right.
It's
I
the
think
same
this-
people who go to church every Sunday and then still criticize people. You can't.
For not being-
Yeah, I
you
think
s-
it's the
you
same
live-
people
walk the walk.
that would. It's on opposite extremes. The same people that would burn the flag would be the same type of people who would be offended by that. And you know what I mean?
Right.
In terms
Yes.
of like,
Right.
That
or,
makes
or
sense.
offended by something just as sort of arbitrary.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like just that need to like because
It's button pushing at its kind of most annoying.
yeah.
And I was just like, how about I like the moderation. Everything in moderation,
Sure.
including moderation.
Including
That's what my
moderation.
father and
They should
mom-
have just burned a baseball then, or
some apple pie. Don't burn apple pie.
Or
We
Bill
wanna eat
Cosby.
that. What did Bill Cosby say?
I'm just saying.
Don't burn Bill Cosby.
Burn Bill Cosby. I don't know. What's
You know what that is?
American? What?
And then, of course, I go to some racist thing. I'm over here.
Ah.
I'm over here having a racist moment. You know what we're going to do? We're going to keep that in my head. That's an inside your head voice, your racism.
okay.
Oh,
Don't you
racism?
think? I
Sure.
think whenever I go, I believe in being racial because I think that everybody's different and that we should definitely acknowledge that and the hilarity
Absolutely.
of our differences.
Absolutely.
You know, because people make fun of everybody, especially comics. I would. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that we should definitely acknowledge. We can't be so politically correct to say, like, I just look at the person and I see the it's just like, no, you should be. You should be
Yes.
proud of your
I
race.
see
You should
the
be proud of
person.
your
But that guy's
gender.
wearing an Ed Hardy shirt, and he's doing it on purpose.
So
And
he's a douchebag.
He is a douchebag, and we're going to make fun of him. 'Cause
Right.
You're just like, man, too curly Q-y, and get over it. It's a lot. I didn't even know what the Ed Hardy thing was until I saw him, like, everywhere. Like, even in places you wouldn't think to. I mean, because wasn't it a hipster thing for about 10 minutes?
I
Yes.
think it was actually. It started
Yeah,
from that, and then it instantly turned into.
Way
It's
too
more like Sunset Strip.
Oh, right, those
that
guys.
sort of those guys that are just then. Or that wear those the shirts that say like affliction across
Yes.
the top or whatever,
I
or
saw
on the
that.
back.
I
The
just
T-shirts
saw
they say
that.
that I don't
Yes.
understand what that means, but it's just
Do
like
they have an affliction?
I don't know.
Is that a band? I thought it was a band.
No, I don't think it. I don't
No.
think it is. I think it's
Okay.
just like a look, and it's the sort of thing. But it's the guys with. It's almost now turned into like a Jersey Shore, as
Right,
in the
like
TV
those-
show, not
yes,
the real.
yeah.
You
And
know,
when
it's
they
in
turn
that
40, they're going to wear cargo shorts and fanny packs and go to Las Vegas.
exactly.
Well, it's like
Right.
they're afflicted with being tortured artists. It's
Boom.
like in.
But it's
well,
the guys with
you
the
know,
hair gel and the eyebrows that are. It's like this weird.
Well, there's a
not
lot
quite
of-
metrosexual, but more like it's like hyper masculine yet. Does that make sense?
Like there's a lot of posturing in L.A. Like when I lived in Manhattan, if somebody was crazy, they were old school crazy. They really thought they were the Queen of Spain. I mean, do you know what I mean? They really were nuts. Here, there's kind of like I'm wacky and castable. Like
Oh.
it's that
Oh
kind
yes,
of.
it's
right?
like
and I think
adorably
it's
insane.
the same thing with wearing a shirt that
Marketably
says
crazy.
I'm
affliction.
insane,
It's
but
like
I'm going to show up for work.
Right.
It's, in
Yes.
Manhattan, they are
With
not
the-
going to show up for work.
I
They are
went to
genuinely.
one place to work booking for a voiceover, and the young lady was wearing a tiara. In July,
Here
it was not
in
nowhere
Los Angeles.
near Halloween. She was just wanted to wear a tiara for the day.
And she was a casting director.
no, she was the receptionist.
Oh.
One
working her way up to
One day to
One
be the
day.
being a casting
Hollywood.
director.
Because you know what?
Yeah, it's
know
too.
what I
It's the thing about like where everyone's allowed to be themselves, which is awesome out here. But it's also there's certain times that you're just like, don't try so hard to be crazy.
Yes.
If
Or
you're really
afflicted.
crazy or afflicted, then we'll deal. We'll talk.
Exactly,
I
yes.
appreciate that. I appreciate your realness. If you're
Yes.
crazy, if you're trying so hard, we're done.
Yes.
LA is full of people, though, that you have to look like you're not trying.
That's
while
what I
you're
mean.
Trying.
Uh-huh.
I think they're afflicted and conflicted. Let's face it.
They're definitely conflicted. It's like, I remember when I first moved here in the late 90s. Oh, yes.
Me too.
And
1890s for me. It's been a while.
boom. And so the alternative comedy scene had sort of blown up, and everybody was really into being an alternative comic. And one of my regular road comic friends, a genuinely funny guy, said, "Hey, I want to do those rooms. I mean, they're really hot rooms with a lot of people coming to see you, but I don't really understand the term alternative comedy. How do I do that?" And I was like, "Well, I'll tell you how,
Yeah.
which is you tell the story of how you came up with the joke, and then you tell the punchline.
Oh, I love that.
Instead
Yeah,
of
yeah.
just telling the setup
joke,
and then the
yeah,
punchline.
Sure.
You're right,
Just make the setup super long.
Yeah.
and, which it turns out is exactly how I've always done stand-up.
Right.
Which is why I fit in with that situation. But then there's when alternative comedy blew up like that, there were all these people who were like the darlings of the alternative comedy set who had to pretend to still not care, and yet now they sort of have to really. I mean, Janine Garofalo, built her career on the fact that she was unwilling to sell out, and
Right.
then had to get super skinny. So, and then had to really care about being super skinny, and does a lot of jokes now about how she has a genuine eating disorder. The last time I saw her, she was talking about how she lets herself eat once a day, but she can eat whatever she wants. But to do that, you have to eat alone. Because if you want to eat whatever you want once a day, you're eating fried chicken and, a pint of Haagen-Dazs.
What a delightful meal that is for
I
her
know,
every
that's
day. It
watch
sounds
that.
like it's such an
No,
enjoyment
oh,
of
man.
nourishment and giving yourself something lovely. How long does the one meal? I mean, can the one meal go on for 6 hours? That's
have
my
no
key.
idea.
I've
Can you
done
just
that.
go to
Eat
Sizzler
all
and pass
day.
out? What's
One
happening
meal.
here?
Sizzler.
Soup plantation till Tuesday morning? What?
But shouldn't alternative comedy just encompass anything? Like, what I look to, it's like it should just be what you find funny. Like, I mean, like, I think that's so funny to put in. It's just like alternative music. Like, that's a style you go and it's like, country, hip hop, R&B, alternative.
Right.
And that was a style of
It
music.
was a style, but it was sort of just guitar rock, wasn't it?
Sure,
Wasn't
it was
just kind of a
90s.
grungy
It was
kinda-
grunge 90s stuff. But in alternative comedy, it's like so interesting to me when you see, which is what I guess is what I do too. But it's like it's at the end of the day, it's
sort of storytelling, isn't it?
It's storytelling. Or this character is what I find fun to do, or whatever. And
or you're just a super weird person.
absolutely.
Who finds it really interesting stuff funny that a lot of people don't. Like Brent Weinbach has something about
Oh, he's
a
incredible.
jazz.
Sure. Well, it's like I don't pick people. I do impersonations of people that are really. People go, why would you ever think to do? I mean, I play Chloe Sevigny and I play Tanya Roberts and I play no one that Jason's mom from Friday the 13th. I've done that before. Like things that I watch or I look at it and say, oh, I respond to that.
Talk amongst yourselves. I got to go cough in the other
All
room.
right.
I'll be right
Oh,
back.
sure.
And you know what?
Exactly.
That's a great lead-in into the fact that you love horror movies.
I love
and
horror
it's
movies.
October.
Yes.
That's true.
It is
That's true.
October. Will you be attending a lot of Halloween parties?
I do. I have some. I'm excited. I'm actually going to go to Halloween parties this year because
Oh.
I couldn't go. I haven't gone last year, and Halloween's so hard. For what we do. Do you do a lot of act like in terms of characters and sketch comedy stuff? Or are you more like into?
I started in
Stand-up.
sketch comedy and
Oh,
improv.
great.
I did a lot of work with Gotham City Improv,
Oh,
which
sure,
is like
New York.
Groundlings East. And
Oh,
then
yeah, sure.
I did a lot of corporate industrials where you were kind of wacky about IBM and really fun companies like that are just ripe with humor.
Oh, those are
And,
great. They're great crowds too.
They are because
Really.
they write it. Yeah, well, they are great crowds because they write it specifically for them, so that when you say, "Well, I guess Bruce is going to be late
Oh, I
again
know.
for
Oh,
the
Bruce!
meeting,"
Oh, she talked about Bruce.
You feel
He's
like
always
you're,
late.
you feel like you're Wanda Sykes. Everybody, the house comes down because you've just commented on Bruce's tardiness.
What I love
So-
about those things too are the amount of just jargon you have to. It takes
Yes.
forever to learn those lines. You can't because it's like with IBM. It's like they all these like data processor
Yes.
jokes or whatever, and you have
Is that
all
like
this.
is that like a sketch show for a corporate?
Yeah, you
It's-
do an industrial,
it's
and they hire a
tailored.
sketch troupe, and they write it, and it's like really bad jokes, and it's really
What they
dry
say is,
material.
here's our March meeting. We want to give them stuff to think about for the next fiscal year. We want to
Right,
raise
but
the
you-
bar.
Right.
Want to go the whole 9 yards. Want to get in the end zone.
So it's supposed to be entertaining and funny, but is it also supposed to hit?
Yes.
It
Oh,
has
it's
to hit-
always, and especially if you do improv, it
and
has
it's
to hit
usually
beats,
it's
yeah.
usually scripted within an inch of its life because you're dealing with people that are terrified of going off
any sort of innovation.
any sort of improv or
Yes.
innovation. Exactly. I mean, and sometimes they could be the nicest people in the world.
Oh,
It's just
of
people
course.
that are not comfortable with improvisers or comics who are like, oh, we'll just get up there and see what
Yes.
happens. That terrifies
Do you know
them.
why? Because inside their heads, they're writing pedophile jokes. And you're like, I'm not ever going
Yes.
to talk
Well,
about that.
Well, I
That's
think
the
it also comes back to labeling alternative comedy or labeling alternative. I think a lot of places and companies, not just show business, are very, very comfortable with labeling things.
Yes.
And so when you say we're going to have some people come and do your corporate show and they're going to improvise, it
sounds
strikes
so
fear
kooky,
into them
hippie,
because they don't know
hippie.
where to put that.
Right.
you know?
Right. And that's the thing too that I've never considered myself. I mean, alternative comedy is what other people would say. It's just true to me. It's like what I think funny.
Yeah.
But
Right,
I've never. Other people have made
They've labeled you as an
you that,
alternative
and
comic.
probably all of us that
Yeah.
way. It's like
Yes.
that thing of like they look at it and they go, "Oh, well, that's not according to Jim." Or that's
Yes.
not what I'm used to, so
Right,
that
right.
must be alternative.
Right, and the weird
And that's
thing
not good
is-
or bad. It's just
It isn't
what
good
it
or
is.
bad, but they always say things like, she could play an alternative room, but she could also do regular rooms.
It's
And you're
like, I do the room, like
right. I'm
right?
just doing stand up. Hopefully,
Right.
I'm just telling a story. I'm just talking, and Patton Oswalt, I think, was the first person to really do that massive kind of crossover, and Paul F. Tompkins, and those guys who they could play any room, but they weren't. It wasn't set up punch like a lot of people were bad comics. They were just sort of. There was a slew of stand-up comics that weren't very good.
Yeah.
And so people who were doing something that wasn't more of Seinfeld or more of Stephen Wright or more of whatever, then
Someone is bombing outside.
something's
apparently.
happening
Something just
outside.
happened.
Who knows
happening
what it
out
is?
there.
This is, this is a great thing about taping this. I can fix all this in post. Here's the good news. I'm not
Yeah.
touching it. I
No.
I'm not
Please
I
doing
think
it.
that may
I
have been
love that.
Bigfoot. I'm not sure.
It's way too much work. It's all I'm going to try to do is some volume leveling.
Sure.
So, but let's talk about Halloween. Do you guys do
Sure.
Halloween?
We were just getting into that. It's something that it was my favorite holiday as a kid.
Oh, really?
As a kid, it was by far my favorite.
Did your
holiday.
parents make you costumes, or did you
They
make your own
did. When I was
costumes?
3, I insisted when I was 3, I insisted on being Gene Simmons from Kiss,
Really?
and yes,
you meant the English
they
accent.
say that you insisted.
They made me a Kiss costume as
Wow.
a kid, and I wore because I didn't even love Kiss so much as a 3-year-old. I didn't know what I just
just
saw
loved
that.
that
I loved the
costume?
look of them. I was like, I wanted everything about that look, and and Gene Simmons' tongue and that crazy look. I was like, I want to be everything about that, and so every year that it was a big deal. Now in doing that's what I was tuning into, like in doing a lot of sketch comedy and doing all these comedy shows, I put on costumes all the time. So
Right.
my mom said the other day, my mom was talking about me, or she was telling a friend that she said Drew was just born with an extra dose of Halloween, which I think is the most awesome thing. I said, Mom, that's the
kinda
sweetest.
sums it
That's
up,
the
yeah.
sweetest thing you've ever said to me because it does sum me up.
Yes.
And but it's kind of what I do all the time. So when Halloween parties come around, I feel like this, not to sound snotty, but it's a holiday for other people.
Right, it's like amateur night for drinkers. Huh?
Sure,
Come on.
exactly. It's like why
New
I-
Year's Eve, you guys.
Yes, or St. Patrick's Day in New York.
I don't go out on New Year's Eve because people that don't normally drink and drive are all out on the
Yes,
road.
yes,
Right.
they
That's
are.
what's really scary. And it's
They don't know the cruise control rule.
exactly.
No one needs
Wait
to.
a minute. What is that? Like,
Which is when you're driving drunk. I used to put the car in cruise control so that I would never speed.
oh,
And
I
that's
you
why
can't
we're all
really do that
living
here, though, can
today.
you? In LA? Because
Oh yeah, 35. I would always
Yeah.
do
Oh, really?
35, and then I would just concentrate entirely on staying on the road, both hands on the.
Apparently, if you go 35 down Pico and stay at 35, you will hit every green light.
Oh,
I
really?
read that in a book
Really?
called Counterculture when I first moved here.
Okay.
It was about a fellow who ate his way down Pico in taco stands. It was a good restaurant book,
Oh,
Counterculture.
very nice. Wow.
And he said, he was intrigued by
That theory.
eating his way. Yes, yes. I'd like to say, as far as Halloween in L.A., that when I first moved here, Halloween took place in the midst of Harriet Myers, I believe her name is. She was being... they were vetting her for the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Is it Harriet
Oh, right.
Myers? Yes,
Yeah.
I feel like that name is
Oh,
wrong.
right. No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Harriet Myers. That's
And
right.
I
Yeah,
saw
sure.
all these sexy nurses and sexy witches, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to bring some newsworthy stuff to this party. I'm going to go as Harriet Myers.
Oh.
And I was mistaken as Pat from Saturday Night Live for the entire night.
I've never done we never did Halloween as a kid. It was never something. Weep softly to a cracked mirror. It's fine. We could hand out candy, but my parents were like, I don't want to.
Wow. Really?
So yeah,
Really?
they were like,
Oh,
no.
bummer.
Well, it's
Not
fine.
even a
except for-
cheesehead? I mean, you're from Wisconsin.
Right, not even. But I married Andy Ashcraft, who enjoys Halloween like nobody's freaking
Oh.
business, man. First, I mean, I think it's part of his live action role playing thing, and
Right.
Sure.
But actors, I'm always like you guys are working actors, and so people are constantly doing your makeup and your. Do you ever think?
So it's not that exciting.
that-
Like people every year
You
ask
wanna
me
get
like,
a real
"Oh God,
costume
what are
person."
you going to be for Halloween this year?" And I'm like, I really have no idea. Also, it's weird for me to walk around all night in a costume and not sort of be on. I know that sounds so gross and actory, but I'm so
But you
comfortable
should be
putting on a
on, shouldn't you?
costume and being on. But Halloween's different. Halloween's more of like, here's my idea. I
okay.
am I am a black-eyed pea, so I'm someone that has a black eye and I have a letter P on me or whatever. Like,
Oh.
I am a this or that.
Nice.
And I'm going to talk to you
I
in a
like
normal
that.
voice and I'm going to be at a party. But you're not really trying to even if you're
In
dressed up like Nancy
character.
Reagan, you're not really doing Nancy Reagan all night. How obnoxious would that be at a party, like someone doing bits all night?
Right.
Which is, well,
But people,
story of my life.
Iowa.
But-
I think because I was in Iowa doing a show on Halloween, and this guy showed up as Boba Fett, and he had the best costume. It was a Boba Fett costume from Star Wars.
Oh, I didn't
And,
know who Boba Fett was.
Boba Fett, he was a mercenary in Star Wars. And,
Okay.
and,
Awesome
sure.
silver metal mask.
Right,
Like,
I was
greenish.
more of an Ewok person.
Bounty
than-
hunter.
Were you? A
Well,
little more
just
of the
because I like
cuties?
anything furry like
Oh,
that. Yeah.
you're a furry person. Excellent.
Well, not a plushie, but just a furry friend.
Right. Just a friend of things that are adorable.
Yes.
There you go.
I've read about the
Um,
plushies.
There's no
Hey,
there's
no
no
judgment. No judgment. It's
No
fine.
need to-
I guess
we're-
not.
safe space. Safe
Safe
space.
space.
Hide my
There you go.
stuffed animals.
All right. And but yeah, he was on the entire night, and I think that's what people who don't work it.
Sure. I mean, for people like one night a year,
Yeah.
that is their time to just put on a costume and just have an awesome night.
Right.
For me, it's just it feels like work. It feels
Have
like a
you-
job.
Have you ever done like a horror thing though? Have you ever done a horror theme, like covered in blood, kind of?
Oh, sure. I'm in a band called the Discount Cruise to Hell.
Oh,
And
really?
it is. We're doing a show. Actually, I can plug that at
Yeah.
the end. But
You can plug it now.
Well, the idea of the show is that you, as an audience member, you're dead and you're going to hell, and this is your cruise line entertainment into hell. So we started doing a lot of covers like Pat Benatar, Hell is for Children.
Okay.
My Name is Luca. A lot of songs about like abuse or whatever. And then now we have a lot of original music, and we have a script, and so it's sort of a band /
Wow.
show, and it's performance art. But we dress in glitter and gore, and do these
And trick it out like Kiss.
We trick it out like Kiss. It's
Yeah.
like it makes sense that I identified with
coming
Gene
full
Simmons, and
circle.
now I get to do that every year. And so I'm looking forward to some Halloween parties this year, but I may not go in costume.
Right.
I don't know.
And now let's talk about this. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say my worst choice for a costume was in college when I left. I had a tendency to leave things to the last minute.
Right.
Papers, getting to class, my degree, things like that. I literally got a letter from the dean. You have to pick you've been here too long now. And I took a brown hefty bag, and I filled it with newspaper, and I stapled it around my neck area. And then I took 2 yellow pieces of felt and also filled them with newspaper and put them on me as a large baked potato. And
Oh.
all night I was mistaken for.
That's
don't
what
know
you're
whether this
mistaken
is-
for.
I don't know if this is what kind of
Where?
a piece of shit is
A piece of
mostly
shit.
people. I
Oh,
don't know
you
why
can
what
swear.
they thought the yellow
Fucking
thing
A.
was.
Do it.
Literally all night. What are you, a piece of shit? And then finally one person said, "Oh, are you a candy bar?" And I was like, "No, but I'm just so happy you thought I was something else
So-
besides a
So what you're
turd."
saying is that while you always have an interesting costume idea, your craftiness does not always rise up to the. Or
Even
would you-
born in Amherst, I don't have the lockjaw craftiness.
You
I
don't
can't
have the
make-
lockjaw.
So
I can't
awesome.
make something dainty out of
I
that.
think it's more. I just think you need to do a whole bit about what you're mistaken for. That's what really fun to me. Like,
Right,
you
the
know.
different things. Yeah, I mean, I usually end up just wearing a hat. And just going, yeah, I'm someone in a hat, and whatever that hat is, it's just like I'm a baseball player, I'm a thing. It's the one year I did buy, those inflatable ones you could buy at the grocery store, where I was a witch sitting on a witch's lap, or I was a
Oh.
puppet sitting on a witch's lap.
Nice.
Oh wow.
And it's a loud thing because there's a blower that creates a bubble person around you.
Oh my
Wow.
god! How
yeah,
crazy.
and yeah, it's a kind of an interesting costume.
I like that. If I'm leaving a particularly bad audition and I'm feeling regret, I'd like to just blow up a person around me.
Right,
when
right.
I get to my
That
car,
then it
just
looks
so I
like
can
you're
leave.
being carried. It'd be nice
It's
if
your town car.
I think we're all
in a
being
way.
carried, really, if we believe in ourselves, don't you, Jackie?
Oh, that's just a little bit disgusting.
Thank you.
It's lovely. Okay.
I did walk through Manhattan one night with a sign, a Hawaiian shirt, and a sign that said "America's burgeoning drug problem," and I carried it home. And I was not stopped once, and I felt accomplished that I could carry a bong through the streets of Manhattan without being stopped because I
Well,
was
I
in
love that.
Halloween is a
costume.
safe. Yes.
A friend of mine who a very good friend of mine, James, did in college. He needed last minute to do a costume, and he just grabbed a bunch of items from a kitchen and taped them to himself. Wrapped himself in an American flag. Actually,
Okay.
to bring that back, wrapped himself in an American flag, and then just taped like spoons and candy bars and wrappers. and condoms and whatever else he could find and wrapped it to himself. And he said he was the spirit of American decadence.
See?
Is that not beautiful?
That is beautiful. It speaks to us.
Yeah.
I like a message.
nice.
I like a message.
And now the Kardashians just do it without having to put anything on them.
Oh, the Kardashians. They're not helping. They're not
helping. I mean, as an Armenian, how do you feel about the Kardashians?
I don't feel good about it. I feel like they're not helping.
Yeah.
It's I'm just like, you know what? But you know what it is? It's a spit in the face of the Turkish government. It's just like, now look what you've done. See?
Yeah.
See, because of the work that you didn't finish, we have the Kardashians.
Oh
and,
my God, I
and
love it.
it's also the fact that, of course, because there's two schools of thought. They're the people who still hate the Armenians. It's work that they didn't finish, and then there's the Armenians who are like, see, now we're everywhere. Now you bastards,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
mingling. We're like Mengele. We're everywhere. And, now we're gonna breed with your children.
Well, my best friend from college, one of them is Armenian.
We all know one.
And we all know one. And
know
her
one.
family is out here, so I feel like I've sort of grown up with this family out here. And I had no idea growing up in North Carolina
About
what
Armenians
at all.
Right.
And
A Baltic swordfish.
we went
Whenever I do
to-
Armenian jokes in the Midwest, I'm like, who thinks Armenia is a Baltic swordfish? Anyone?
I mean, seriously, people don't know. And I remember in North Carolina in college, she said she was Armenian, and I thought, oh, you're like Latvian, Lithuanian. I knew what Armenia was.
Right. It's
Was,
a country
a
somewhere
country
in Eastern
somewhere in Eastern
European-
Europe, but I didn't know it was a race of people. You didn't know that, and now I feel like it really has.
It's come into its own.
It's come into its own.
It's because of Glendale.
It's like sun-dried tomatoes. Everyone knows. about
Everyone
them
knows
now.
them now.
Sure.
Now they do.
Now
Sure.
they do. Sure. now
Everyone's
they're at
related.
Applebee's.
I want to talk about horror movies and how much I can't possibly watch them.
Yes, you can't at
No,
all.
because they scare me.
Oh, really?
Success, well done. I say to those who are making them. You've already scared me at that. You've scared me at the trailer.
You had
But,
me at the trailer.
Exactly.
I
You had me at
love them.
You love them?
Love them.
Did you?
Well, a certain type of them. I'm really way not into the new trend of like the torture porn, the Saw,
porn, yeah.
Hostel. Those movies I can't do. I
What
can't
about
deal with
the
people.
original Halloween?
Incredible, a masterpiece.
Because that was supposedly like the first slasher movie, right?
truly. Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think you could consider Psycho the first. I would consider
Slasher?
that the first slasher movie. And although it was more psychological, it was Hitchcock. I guess Halloween was our modern version of that.
Because
Like,
there wasn't
you know,
a lot of psychological going on. It was just a madman, right?
Yeah,
With
although
the knife?
there are scenes in that. What's brilliant about Halloween is that how much you don't know about why he's crazy.
I've never seen it. Yeah.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Okay.
And nothing better. I mean, like it I'd be happy to say it's one of the best movies ever made. I mean,
Okay.
across the board.
Just quality
It's
movie.
just a
Based on
great
what
film.
they don't show, which I think
What
is
they
more
don't show,
suspenseful than
you don't really know. I mean, you know that this kid was crazy in that movie. You know, he killed his family. Don't really know why or whatever, and he just comes back to chop up a bunch of people. And I think
Right.
that it's so simple, and it's the idea that like it could just happen.
It
Yes.
could just
And
happen.
you don't
Some
need a
crazy
lot of people
person could lose
talking.
it.
You don't need a lot of like explanation for a great movie like that.
Yeah.
You know, that simple can be just scary enough. To,
Right.
You know, and there's no blood. There's no blood in Halloween either. So
Oh,
which is
there
also
isn't?
great. No blood at all. And so
Oh,
it's
see.
just
Bones has more gore than
Oh,
I
sure.
can take most
Oh,
of the
sure.
time. I'm like, dude, just because you can make it look real doesn't mean I need to see it.
Yeah.
What I want to know, like, what they're preparing me for, like makeup artists. I'm like, I know you can make it real now, make it look real. Are you preparing me
Sure.
for the zombie apocalypse? Because I don't want to know
I
what
don't
that
want
looks
to
like.
know what that looks like.
Yeah, I agree that suspense is the things like Saw and stuff. I find are
It's
too
just
graphic.
gross. It's like people
The
chopping off
suspense
their
is
own body
more-
parts and eating them. It's
Yeah.
just like that's not scary. That's just gross. And
Yeah.
that's, I mean,
Okay.
and it's like
What about
and
The Ring? I heard The Ring was.
I
good.
actually have never seen The Ring. Weirdly enough, that's one that
Is
I've
that the
actually
VHS
missed.
one? That's the VHS
Sure,
one, right?
sure. To
Okay.
watch the tape and whatever. Yeah, but I like some Japanese horror films. There's a great one called Audition, which is just truly terrifying.
Really?
I
did-
absolutely know. Miyake is his name. I think it's Takashi Miike. It's a
Okay.
Japanese film. The J horror movies are great, but his movies especially are just bizarre. They're almost dark comedies. Audition's about a woman and about a man who his wife dies, and he decides that he needs a new wife. It's a real indictment of Japanese culture and the
Okay.
sexist culture that he decides he needs a new wife. So his friend is a producer. So they set up mock auditions that they're doing a movie to audition these women. But the reality is he's looking at women to court and marry. And the producer is like, don't pick the best actress. And he picks this, because she's going to be problems. Pick this timid, scary one. He says, pick this really, pick the shy, timid one. And that's who he picks. And she ends up to be a crazy person. It's great. It's really good. So, I don't know. I'm a big, when you talk about what I'm a dork about, it's that. I mean, and especially, I grew up on Freddy and Jason. That was my...
Which is Nightmare on Elm Street,
Nightmare
right?
on Elm Street and Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, which those are kind of slasher movies, too.
Bro, they're definitely slasher movies.
Okay, but do they not show the blood there, too? Or?
Oh, there's so much blood in those movies. But it's truly, like, especially in the Freddy movie, the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, it's characters that you follow. You really follow these, in the earlier movies especially, you follow these characters and
so there is like a story arc.
There's
but
a
also
story arc.
if it isn't gratuitous, like for instance, not a horror movie, but I just saw The Town, and it's a desperate movie,
which is great.
And it's violent. But I also didn't find it to be. Of course, the violence was upsetting, but you needed it to really get an idea of what kind of trouble these people were in.
Sure,
it would have been. You know what I mean? I agree that I don't mind if it serves the story.
Right. I don't have a problem with sex or violence in a movie if it serves the film.
Yeah.
Like because you know that they're going to make a movie out of the Hunger Games. And did you read The Dragon?
Hunger Games?
The Hunger Games, it's supposed to be a children's book.
Okay.
And it is a children's book in the way that sort of Catcher in the Rye and The Outsiders are. Are you depressed enough? Here, read this, because you're 14.
Oh,
and so The Hunger Games is about 16-year-olds that are forced to kill each other in a dystopian future.
Wow.
So
can they only eat one meal a day? Is that what the title refers to? Or no?
The title is that nobody has any food, and that's what you're killing for.
Oh.
You're killing people for food. And
I see.
Otherwise, you couldn't get anybody to kill anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You'd have to be starving to get pacifists or people who don't really want to kill you to kill you.
To kill you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because to some extent, the theory is that anyone would kill anyone if you were starving to death.
Yes.
So it's it's aimed at children. It's a middle school. It's a youth book.
Adorable.
Well, in Germany, they had I think his name was Peter Strudel. He was a young Strudel Peter. He was a young character whose fingers were chopped off at some. And German books are not. German children's
books are great. I mean,
are very
all the,
upsetting.
Grimm's fairy tales are German, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole
those
thing.
guys. Well, yeah, they like to tell it like it is.
Sure.
And the good thing about them, trains are on time.
Now, my father not only taught English and American Lit, he taught film too.
Oh, did
so
he?
when
Wow.
I saw Fatal Attraction, he said, "Well, of course, the bubbling bunny was an homage to obsession."
Oh, so
like
and as a lit professor, he's always looking for.
He's
and it was kind of
looking to draw
fun
those
because
inferences.
he
Sure.
sometimes, as far as calling your parents, for
Right.
stuff, I do sometimes call him and say, "Hey, I kind of feel like in this scene, and he's not at all condescending. He'll always explain. He also took me to Kurosawa films when I was 10, and I was really
that's
like,
awesome.
I'm going to die from boredom. Like I really almost, my ears were ringing. I was like, this is too much imagery for me to understand.
Right. It's
Please
so
stop
glad
explaining
I don't
it to
have
me
epilepsy and stop it.
Yeah.
Well,
I
my
wanna
mom made
die.
me watch Hitchcock. She didn't make me. She knew I loved horror movies, and so she said, "Okay, great. Here's some Hitchcock. Here's actually some good horror movies." She showed me some movies from the '70s, like "Play Misty for Me." Have you got that? Clint Eastwood and Jessica Walter.
Right.
Yes.
I get that mixed up with The Fan.
Okay, well,
Play
similar,
Misty.
the
Okay.
same
It's pretty good.
idea. I mean,
Right.
it's psychologically terrifying movies that,
Right.
As a kid,
And you're 10.
and I'm 10 or younger, even,
Yeah.
and that's really cool. That was something that she recognized. Okay, you like horror movies. Well, here's something good.
Right.
That's not just like,
When I was super
crap.
little, we had my small town had a movie theater, and after church on Sundays, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, my mom would always drop us off at the movie theater, and I was 5 or 6, and my older brothers were like 14 and 16, and they were always like Dracula movies and werewolf movies and mummy movies, but there
Right.
were all those movies from the 50s, and I don't remember being scared at those.
Sure.
Because
sure.
they were, but then I remember one Halloween I watched. What's the
Whatever happened to Baby Jane?
Oh man,
that's scary for a whole different reason.
oh my god! What about what's the vampire movie that's supposed to be funny with
Fearless Vampire Killers?
No, it's about the making of the silent film Nosferatu.
The Malkovich movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. it has some
Damn it.
Shadow of the Vampire.
Shadow of the Vampire. That's
Yeah.
it. And they were like, "Oh, it's funny. It's funny." And so we watch it, and I'm up till 4 a.m. because
Really?
I can't sleep because
I hated that movie.
Did
I
you
really
hate that movie?
I hated that movie, and I feel like the performances all were really great. And Willem Dafoe was in that. Like
Right.
great people were in it, and they were all great. I just couldn't tell what the tone of that movie was. I didn't know if it was supposed to be funny or scary or.
right. I think the
It
people who
landed
found it
nowhere
funny,
for me. I found it just like I was so
I found it
confused by.
terrifying.
Really, that's
Yeah.
so funny. Wow.
Yeah, it's. I was like,
Wow.
that is that guy's probably really a vampire, and I
Because it
don't-
was about
not happy.
F.W. Murnau, the guy who made Nosferatu.
Right. Yeah. It
The
was
guy,
supposed to be.
well, the guy who played Nosferatu might actually have been a vampire. That's
Yeah,
right?
that was
Okay,
it.
okay,
yeah.
sure.
And the director was essentially it was supposed to be based on the guy who made that movie, who found a real vampire to play the vampire, and then
Oh.
everybody dies, and you're just like, well, I don't want to. And then what was the one that really I'm gonna do this, but it's the movie with fava beans and
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs. Wow.
That's do you consider that a
That's
horror
the
movie? or
that
is
might be the scariest movie I've ever seen. I mean,
that was
that's-
terrifying.
and that's another movie that I would say is one of the best movies ever.
It was
made.
incredibly
I mean,
well
it's
made.
incredibly well made. I remember
I
seeing
don't
that
care. I'm
movie
never
in
seeing it
in the movie theater.
Yeah.
That'll be scarier than anything I'll probably ever see the rest of my. I mean, I can't imagine anything being scarier than that.
I always liked the exchange between Hannibal and was she big in
Clarice.
the hips? Rumi. They all were Dr. Lecter.
Oh, really?
When she's
Oh.
beginning to realize. I'll tell you, my brother Nick Ratner,
Nick Ratner?
music editor on that,
Oh,
assistant
really?
music
Wow.
editor.
Oh,
It was
you
his
worked
first
on
job interview with Susanna Parrish,
Wow.
who is a music editor, and she said, "What kind of music would someone listen to who's making an outfit of women's skin?" And he said, "I know exactly what he'd listen to," and he produced some horrifying.
So he,
English band because my brother grew up loving films.
Fresh Horses or
and
Dark
having-
Horses? What was that song?
I don't even know. He just
Oh, man,
has
that song is
walls of
so great.
CDs, and he picked it, and she said, "You got the job," and that's how he started his. And he said, "This is you're going to like this film." And I saw it opening day, February 14th.
Wow.
Whatever.
1991.
It was
Yeah.
91. It was a, Valentine's Day was sort of a
Right.
funny
I
opening
went-
day, and it was great.
Oh.
She's
I, I did a movie
He's great
exchange
in it.
with this woman that I was doing open mics with,
Mm-hmm.
Bev Rambo. That's still her real name. What the hell? I have 12
Wow.
listeners. Anyway, so Bev Rambo, she would do things like sleep with the sound guy at
Yeah.
open mic. And you're
Wow.
like, that's like sleeping with an administrative assistant to get to the middle. You're not good at this at all.
No.
But I hung out with her. I'm not a good person either because I hung out with her because she had a car and she would drive me to open mic. Anyway,
That's great. That's
so
important.
we tried to be friends, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, and the reason I stopped hanging out with her was not because of her poor comedy choices or her poor partnership choices, but it was because of Silence of the Lambs. And she was like, we went to a movie, me, her, and her husband. And then
Oh.
yeah, and then
All right.
okay, and then and she was like, "Oh, you just pick the movie," and I picked Defending Your Life.
Oh,
Albert Brooks,
great
Meryl
film!
Streep,
Not
Meryl
a horror
Streep.
film, but a great
Not
film.
a great film, one
Yeah.
of my favorite movies of all time.
Yes,
it's
it's
a
a
lovely
good-
Sunday afternoon moment.
It's a good movie.
That's it.
It's a
The
really funny
following
movie.
week, she's like, "Okay, now I'm gonna pick," and she
Oh.
picked Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, a little bit of a
And-
dichotomy.
Yeah,
Then. Mhm.
and then thought it was hilarious that I'm sitting in a packed movie theater and I
Oh.
can't, and I'm in the middle and I can't
Oh,
get out.
yeah.
And she was like, "You're staying through it. You're staying through it." And I was like,
Oh.
"Okay, well now I'm being tortured."
Yeah.
Oh, I
So-
know. No, and I mean that movie has an ability to just
Scare the hell out
stay
of you.
with you
Yeah.
forever. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really. I mean, that scene with the
And the editing when she's knocking on the door, and
Oh,
you
I
think
know.
they've got him,
Well,
and then he opens the
that's-
door, and
And
it's
then the
little tiny
darkness.
little Jodie Foster.
That's only the first time
Oh.
I feel like ever had seen. Now people do that all the time. That's on TV. The edit, the sort of fake out edit thing. But I remember when that happened.
Yeah.
In that, I mean, because I saw the movie really early. I saw it on opening weekend as
Right.
well, and I remember, having no idea. I would
How
God,
dark
I
it was
like,
gonna
I
be.
was
Yeah.
young when I saw it. I was like, I don't know, but I was like, I had no idea how dark it was going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And thought it'd be just another, sort of. But because I loved like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and around that time, like there were a lot of those like really fun, pulpy, great scary movies, and I thought, oh, this will be another one of those. And I
Right.
remember being like, oh no, this is truly the scariest thing.
And what really scared me about it was like they'd show these clips on television. I think it was the first time where it all looked real. You know, like all the bodies looked real. All the like the news looked real. They whoever did it, I don't even know.
Jonathan Demme.
Jonathan
Demme,
There we
yeah.
go. Like nailed the recreation of the newscasts where I was like, I could have watched that this afternoon.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure,
It's, you know,
sure.
and in some cases, it's like when you leave Idiocracy and you walk out and you see a billboard and you're like, oh my God, I'm living in Idiocracy.
Oh, why?
Yeah.
Okay, that movie was brilliant.
Occasionally.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean the fact that nobody saw it.
Is it? I believe
crime.
I believe they lost their distribution because they used all the right. They used all the real names of products.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
that
think it
makes
had
sense.
limited release.
It did. I mean, it was at the ArcLight for like a week, and there were no posters for it. There was no
Right.
ad for it at all.
Mike Judge,
I just
Idiocracy.
searched
Yeah,
for
it came and went. I didn't see it.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, it is.
It's actually a movie that I thought it was great, but I left that movie sad because it felt so.
too real.
It felt too real.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe
right.
that's why it
And
came
it's,
and went.
it's a complete
Especially
satire of.
a friend, Andrew Solomson, friend of the show, he walked out of the ArcLight, and it was exactly like being in the movie. Because L.A. is full of those giant billboards that tell you to go buy things that you don't need.
Right,
And,
right,
you know,
right.
and you think, you know...
I need smart water. Sure, or whatever.
Or the
Right.
one for Morongo Casino that says "More on Go."
More on go.
Once you start to really look around,
It
you
makes
know?
you really aware of what's
Yes,
happening.
exactly, exactly.
It's, all right. Let me tell you something. It's been almost an hour.
I see.
Yeah.
Really? You're kidding.
Yeah, that's it. We didn't even talk about math. Do you know why?
All right,
I don't
we
know
didn't
anything
talk about
math.
sports. I wanted to
I
talk a
don't
little
know.
bit
Oh my
about
God,
the
I'm a
spiritual
pig.
transformation of sports.
Let's talk about sports.
Okay.
What sport do you like the best? All of them? And
No,
why
I
is
love
it-
to watch a good tennis game, but I have to say the most is the NFL. The book I am reading at this point, I'm not reading, I'm listening to.
Okay,
On
audiobook.
an audio book.
Named?
The score takes care of itself.
All right.
And it is about rebuilding the 49ers and taking them from a 2-14 NFL team to winning the Super Bowl 2 years later. The reason I like sports is because, like our business, preparation is key. You got to be ready. You got to
Right.
be ready when
Sure,
somebody.
sure.
Lots of times in the NFL, you're watching Monday Night Football, and they're like, "Last week he was working at a cell hut at a mall in Minnesota."
Right.
You know, there was a story of one guy, a coach went in to get a rental car, and he saw a guy working there, and he said, "Didn't we cut you last year?" He said, "Yeah." And he's like, "You know what? We just lost the position you're good at. Come back." He found
Really?
him that way. That has to do with tipping point and 6 degrees of separation, a lot of math stuff.
Serendipity.
But there's also a fairness in sports that you don't have in showbiz. When you get in the end zone, you get your 6 points, and here you can act the hell out of something, and some ninny walks in and gets it. And I think
Sure.
it's why I
Act the
enjoy
hell.
the
Act your
NFL.
tits off.
There's a guy in a black and white striped shirt who's like, "You got here, and you deserve this." And sometimes they're unfair. I mean, Michael Vick is playing in the NFL, and he strung dogs up and electrocuted them. And
Yeah, but he's not. It's not like he created the dog industry, did he? Did Michael,
he didn't
did-
create
did
the
he-
dog or the dog industry.
I mean, he didn't
but he
invent-
watched
he didn't invent
animals
that, did he?
suffer
Right,
because
but-
they
but-
weren't good fighters for him and
Right.
killed living things. I think
But
that there
there's
should
plenty
be more of a
politicians
punishment.
who do that.
Who electrocute dogs
Yeah,
for their
are you-
enjoyment.
Are you telling me that there aren't senators
sure.
from Louisiana who don't go to cockfights? I think there
I
are.
guarantee you there are.
Because and there's and there's people who hate gay people but are gay. I mean,
Well,
there's
that's
just
most people.
Well,
that
I am
hate
not
gay
a
people.
dog fighting proponent who
right.
doesn't like
That's-
him.
why am I defending Michael?
I'll
Vick?
tell you what
I
my
also-
problem
What
is
just
with
happened?
him. I'll tell you what my problem
Jackie's
is with
wearing
him.
a Michael Vick shirt.
I have
by the
seen
way.
him interviewed
It's a
3
jersey.
times, and he
Right.
has never said, "Wow, I think I did something wrong." What he has said
might
is,
be
"I
wrong
can't
about-
believe I risked all the money and fame I had." That's
by
the
a hobby
he's-
that I don't. That
He's
I don't.
mad that he got caught.
Yeah.
And on Sunday, they showed another clip of him, and I thought, I'm going to give this turd one more chance. And he was speaking to a group of high schoolers saying, "Not everyone will get a second chance. I did because I'm really talented." And I'm like, that's it.
Oh, that's
it, Vic.
Ooh,
I
ooh.
can't. I'm
That's
sorry.
an inside your head voice,
You
Michael
actually
Vick.
think? You actually think
right.
that?
And-
You actually think that?
Right. What it's saying to them is, if you don't have the skills I have and you get busted,
Or it's
you
teaching them
don't.
to be entitled, and I think to be cocky assholes because it's like teaching them to go, "Hey, I'm talented, so I'm owed
I get
something."
to do whatever I
Right,
want. I
right.
can
Because
rape
I'm
that woman. I can
talented.
kill that
Right.
dog.
Right,
I
right,
can do
right.
whatever
But
I
I
want.
didn't. I'm giving
does that
sports a
even mean?
negative connotation.
But I know your
think it's a
point.
very enlightening thing, sports, and very fulfilling. Sorry, what were you going to
In
say?
general, I agree. I think there's the fairness to it is is great. That does not equate in our business. Our business is
It's arbitrary.
Nothing matters in terms of your training, or as long as you've been doing it, or as good as you are, you walk in, whatever.
It's a crapshoot at some point. But the thing is,
but you can increase your odds. That's the beauty of that's sort of where I think of auditions as bats. Every time I go to bat, so I got to keep getting there. It is a numbers game.
Sure.
It really is. Sure. But it's arbitrary.
Well.
Yeah, it is endurance. I mean,
well, and it's a couple of weeks ago, about a month or so ago, my brother said, "What do actors do in Los Angeles when they give up, but they don't move back home?
Mm-hmm.
What do they do for money?" And of course, all I heard was, "When are you going to give up?" But that's just my committee meeting. But here's the thing: is and the real answer, of course, is real estate. But but what I swear, the most intense. Creative people, the ones who don't want to give up, the enduring actors and stuff like that, they create jobs out of whole cloth. And I've talked about this before. They create, and the first job that was ever created out of whole cloth by an actor, I swear to God, I've been thinking about it for weeks, is the valet. Is a rich man actor pulled up to a restaurant and he was like, "I don't want to park my car. I'll give you $5 to go park my car."
Mm-hmm.
And a job was born.
Mm-hmm.
The personal assistant. I don't have time to go get my own dry cleaning.
Yes.
And his less successful actor friend said, "I'll do it for $20."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
And there's life coaches and there's personal chefs and there's, and it takes 5 years for a job like that. So anyone who does anything, anyone who walks your dog for you, anyone who raises your children for you,
yes,
that was a job that was created by an out-of-work actor.
Sure.
And
that's a good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. I've decided that I'm going to start a job where you pay others to do affirmations for you. It's going to be awesome. It's just, but they're going to have to record it so that I can listen to it because I don't have time to do my own affirmations. The universe supports me, and I am.
But I'll tell you something. When I get out of the car after listening to Bill, I mean I also have one about their halftime speeches from the locker room of the Packers season, 67 championship season. When I get out of that car, I'm ready. Well, it's because they're all things like, and Pinky Levine is going down the field in a snowstorm, and a raccoon is giving birth on the 40-yard line. Like they're always named things like the brick, and the oven, and the. But there's also a lot of zen in sports. Like I was watching Monday Night Football one night, and John Madden said, "You got to have a bad memory to play in this game." Meaning, if you drop the pass. Catch the next one. If you flub an audition, if a joke doesn't go well, and you're on stage,
that's a very good analogy to what we do too.
Commit to the next
stage.
stage.
So live in your own misery. But it's like you drop a line. Usually people don't know until you stop and think about it and stew in it for a second or a minute or whatever, or you let that affect your whole night.
Now I have a question about acting. Is that do you find in stand-up comedy the only thing that fixes a bad set is a good set?
Mm-hmm.
In an acting gig is the only thing that fixes a bad acting. I mean, does it fade? Does it fade if it's recorded? Like you're like, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that. Like a good set can fix a bad day, but a good day can be ruined by a bad set.
Sure. I mean, I feel like comedy is much more immediate. You know right away how if it's working or not. You really know. I mean, I don't know. I teach it. I teach improv, and it's crazy to me when some people don't have an awareness of when things aren't going well or whatever they are. But
that is fascinating.
When you've been doing it for a while, you have a sense of like, okay, that laughs or not. As an actor, you don't. You have to not be in such a judgmental place, I think, and you just have to do it because there's sometimes when people are so engaged. If you're doing a play, they're so engaged in what you're doing, but they're not laughing, or even if it's a comedy, they're listening, or they're, you can't judge an audience. You can't gauge an audience nearly as well with acting. Also, anytime you do anything, comedy or drama, on camera, you have no idea if it's working when you're doing, and because you have a whole, you have a whole crew around you. No one's laughing. I mean, they might all be nice and the crew and say, "Oh, that was great. That was really fun." Other times they're moving on. It can be great, and you don't hear about it.
I think also like not being judgmental and also being happy with your own. I have felt last week I had a great audition. I didn't book the job, but I felt like, you know what? Sure. Even in Bill Walsh's book, he says you can control 80% of the game.
Right.
20% is weather, bad calls, injuries.
Sure.
And 20% of an audition is, the husband looks like this, so the wife's not going to, And when someone's playing a great game, they're like, Tom Brady's out there like he's playing on a Sunday afternoon with his friends.
He's
And
just
because
in a-
he's
he's
not
in the
thinking about
pocket.
65,000 people.
That's
He's
exactly-
playing
yeah.
with joy,
Right,
which
he's
is
love of the game. Yeah.
my acting teacher, Jack Plotnick, is always
Oh,
telling
I love
us.
Jack. I
Yeah.
know Jack's class. He's awesome.
Yeah, Jack's a great teacher, but he says,
a great teacher.
I texted him this morning and said, I have an audition today, and he said, go have fun. And
Yeah.
I did not go in there thinking, what is she thinking? Did I wear the right thing?
Right.
I had a blast
Yeah.
and I left, and play
now-
the
and
next
that's
That's
point.
all that matters.
You know?
Yeah, that is very much it. That an audience doesn't show up to watch you freak out and hope to do a good job.
Right.
They're there for you to be good. They want to enjoy
Yeah, they
it.
want it to
They
go well.
want it to go well.
The casting people want you to
They
nail
do.
it because then they're
they
done.
want you to,
Yeah.
And they
so-
look good.
And it's what you do. At the end of the day, you're like, this is what I do,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna either be right for this or not, or it's and not worry about it too
Yeah.
much. The worst times I have, whether I get the job or not, I've even had auditions that have gone terribly, and I've gotten the job randomly.
Right.
So it's a lesson of going, oh, well, I could be.
Yes.
If I was that, I left feeling terrible. I got no love in the room, and then
Yep.
it's like I get a phone call. You're working on it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the flip side is much more the case when you feel okay to great about it, and you don't get it. So it's literally a matter of 8 million things out of your
Right.
hands.
I always ask this of sports dorks, though, as people who love sports. Is it the fact that you don't know how it's going to end? The suspense of that, does that draw you to watch the game?
Well, to me, the mental, like somebody asked Martina Navratilova, how did you win all those tournaments? And she
Okay.
said, I just played the next point. And
Okay.
the idea is she
Nice.
didn't think I want to win Wimbledon. She thought it's 15-30 and I got to make it 30-30. That's it.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? So
great.
they often say during tennis tournaments, this is not about skill at this point. This whole game is between the ears. Meaning they're either going to mentally do this or
so
not.
you like
So
watching
to me,
the mental game,
I like watching...
like somebody getting psyched out.
I like actually the opposite. I like watching somebody under duress
Not
go out, with
Okay.
30 seconds left in the game and take the team down the field and not say, there's no time, this won't happen, I won't throw. Just take all of those thoughts out of their head.
Right.
To me, I like the human element of course, there's so much
Yeah.
skill involved. And
Right,
they're
and
like
that's the other-
ballet dancers. Some of those football players, the catches they make are extremely...
right. Well, the only I
athletic.
like the X Games. I mean, those are the games that I'll watch on
Yeah.
TV, just because it's like watching a superhero as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned.
Right,
Because
right.
you're like, you just dropped into a 20-foot half pipe, and I wouldn't drop into a 4-foot. I mean,
Yeah.
the Skechers store up at Universal City Walk has a little tiny half pipe, and I saw like a 9-year-old boy with a skateboard, and you could go in there if your parents were in there. They'd let kids use the tiny half pipe,
Right.
And kids like 9, and there's just he's never dropped. His dad was standing next to me. And he goes, "Yeah, he's never actually dropped into a half pipe." And I told him, "Give it a shot. This one's a little one."
Wow.
And so the kid's like 9, and he's a big kid for 9, but he's the one drop of sweat just going down, and he's like, "I just got to do it. I just got to do it."
Yeah.
And you can see him thinking, and he drops into it, and he falls, and he wipes out, but he's like, okay. And so you see him do it 3 more times, and you're like, okay, I'm not killed when I do this.
Yeah.
So, but to
Yes.
drop into like a 20-foot
Yeah,
half
it's to
pipe.
embrace that
Right.
fear. That's an improv thing too. Dive into that bag of snakes.
Oh, I'm terrible
Yeah.
at improv.
It's
It's such a learned skill. It's a
really,
learned
it
skill.
is, and but really, it's a mental thing too
I
of
agree.
listening and playing, because that's just listening and being present, and like you said, just play the next point, play the next thing, think of what they just happened, and not think big picture, not think
Yeah.
not think what's funny about the or what am I doing with it, or literally thinking here, now this, now this, now this, and that's
Right.
such a
Right.
that's so exciting. I
That's
love
how
that when people
stand-up
are
is.
yeah, sure.
It's like
Well, in the
stand-
big picture, it's also how we build our careers. It's inches. It's not. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's not. And I've
Sure.
seen
Yeah,
people
it's
interview. What was
patience.
your big break? Somebody interviewed Edie Falco, and she said, "I used to get under 5s on a soap in New York. That was as
Right.
big of a break as playing Carmela Soprano because it meant somebody was moving me ahead.
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
as big."
As anything.
And she went to that audition thinking they'll never make this mobster's wife blonde. And she didn't
Right.
phone it in, but she said, I certainly didn't think I was going to get that. And the next day they called me and said, we want you to read with this guy, James Gandolfini. And I mean, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's being prepared.
Right.
working at a cell hut in the mall and going, you know what, Edie, we need you as wide receiver next week, and going in the game. You have to go in the game,
Yeah,
you know?
It's proof that in the end, we're all mostly just dorks for what we do for a living, because
yes.
that's what it led back to
great?
the entire hour.
Yes.
Droege. Talk to us about the fact that you're on Facebook and Twitter, but you don't have a website, but people can find out where you're playing and stuff.
I don't have a website, but I'm on the Facebook, and I just started Twitter, so it's...
And Droege
It's
is how
Droege.
E-G-E? What the hell is my problem?
I don't know. That's all right.
Droege.
Droege. You can
And
find me
Drew.
on the Facebook or the Twitter.
And if they're on and if they're in Los Angeles, where can they see you perform?
I am. I put my shows actually up on my Facebook wall because I pop on over. I'm doing the Discount Cruise to Hell show October 21st, 22nd at Highways in Santa Monica.
Excellent.
And
So that's your band, and you're going to play there.
That's my band.
Awesome.
We're going to be playing there. Yeah. And Upright Citizens Brigade and
all
the
that
Ground
stuff.
Band and all that stuff too. So yeah.
Stay tuned.
Oh, nice.
Whatever.
Droege. Sheila Ratner.
Yes.
At SheilaRatner.com. Ratner. Did I spell it right?
You spelled the last name right, and then the first name is Shelagh.
That's right.
Kooky Irish spelling.
It's crazy, which is why I think of you as Irish.
Which is why I was called Shelagh at jury duty. Shelagh Ratner. Coming at you.
Shelagh.
There's a stage
What a
name
name
you'd
to
have changed in the 40s, wouldn't it?
It's
SheilaRatner.com is the website. I also
you're
write.
not on Facebook, but you
I'm
will
not
one
on
day be
Facebook.
on Twitter.
I will be twittering.
You will tweet.
I also write jokes for Life and Style magazine.
Oh, nice.
I forgot to tell you that earlier, which are at the Style Slip-Ups. I dress in sweats most days, but I feel confident enough to mock what other people are wearing at the
That's it.
back of a magazine.
Well done, cojones.
And I am currently raising funds for anyone who's listening who sends a donation to Jackie. And I am currently raising funds to finish a short film called We Got Spirit, which is about some
Yes, we
housewives,
do.
former
We got spirit.
cheerleaders.
How about you? How about that?
Exactly.
So
They're cheering on America and bringing spirit back
And
to
it's
America.
a short film that you're directing. We've Got Spirit.
I
and
directed. It's all improvised. It features
Sheila
some
Ratner,
incredible actresses.
SHELAGH, Ratner, RATNER. Ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be another Dork Forest. I'll tell you all about it when I do it. But go to dorkforest.com. It's on Libsyn. It's on iTunes. Review the show, for Christ's sake, because I'm told that it helps me get more listeners. And God knows that's what we all want. A little more attention. Michael Vick, obviously a jackass. Just going to say it out loud. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Thank you. Good night.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh, my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?